I'm so excited to be giving you guys a list of men's fragrances for this season with some actual longevity. I feel like it's so difficult to find fresh fragrances that last more than 2 hours, and all of these fragrances should make it past the 5-hour mark. So stay tuned if that's something that you're interested in. For those of you who are new here, my name is Ashley. I work as an apprentice perfumer for a major fragrance company. I've been working in fragrance now for over 10 years in different roles, from fragrance curator to fragrance creator. So if you're interested in informational fragrance videos and reviews with an informed opinion, consider subscribing to the channel. So the first fragrance on my list is Sicilian Leather by Memo. And what I love about this fragrance is that it's a leather you can wear in spring, which is already kind of rare. So normally with leather fragrances, we're used to wearing them in the fall and in the winter. They can be very animalic. They're often paired with dark notes like tobacco and vanilla and this type of thing. But what Sicilian Leather does different is that it pairs it with this bright, zesty bergamot. And for those of you who have never smelled bergamot, what's rare about this citrus is its high percentage of linalool acetate, which is a very floral note often found in lavender. And so you have a smell that's very citrusy. It still has a lot of limonene, which is kind of the smell of the orange rind, but then you also have this high amount of this floral note. And that's why it's so used in perfumery. That's why you always see bergamot as a top note. And here it's very, very prominent. So normally, you have your citrus notes kind of burn out within the first 10 minutes of a fragrance, but in Sicilian Leather, it lasts with the pairing of the leather. I sprayed this fragrance on, I'm actually wearing it today. I sprayed this fragrance on over 4 hours ago, and it's still very strong. And my boyfriend gave me a compliment on it like 15 minutes ago. So it's definitely one of those fragrances that will stay with you throughout the day, still smells fresh, still smell very spring, because the leather itself is very clean and very green. But yeah, you're not smelling like you're wearing a dark, heavy fragrance on these bright blue sky days. So it's just a great fragrance to have in your collection. And what I find really nice about it is, again, because it's still very citrus heavy, in addition with the leather, you can wear it well into summer. I think maybe in like an August heat, then the leather might start to feel a bit cloying, but until then, it's just a fragrance that will take you through a good chunk of the year. The next fragrance on my list is ELYSIUM by ROJA, the Eau de Parfum, and I love this fragrance. I just find it to be so attractive on a guy. I've seen people call it a niche Chanel Bleu, and I kind of get the comparisons, but it's definitely a different fragrance on its own. It has grapefruit, vetiver, and ambergris as the notes that I pick up the most in it. And I just find, I can talk about the differences between this and Chanel Bleu, but I think calling it a niche version of Chanel Bleu, it's still very unique. So I think if you are someone that loves Chanel Bleu, but you're kind of tired of smelling like everyone else, if a lot of people in your own circle wear it, it's not a fragrance that I feel like is overworn in the way some other fragrances are. But if in your circle, all your friends are wearing it and you want to try something else, I highly, highly, highly recommend ROJA's ELYSIUM. I just think it ups kind of the sexy factor, the addictive factor of this fragrance. I love grapefruit notes, and I really get that here, where I think in Chanel Bleu, it's more of this like lemon orange pairing. And again, the longevity on the ELYSIUM is pretty solid. You get 6 to 8 hours of wear. And yeah, I really, really dig this fragrance. Up next, I'm going to be talking about Diptyque Philosykos in the Eau de Toilette version. I just find this is the original version, and it's just my favorite. I just feel like it really encapsulates the original idea the best way. I also like the Eau de Parfum, but what I love about this fragrance is really the sap notes, like this crushed open fig leaf, and I find it to be a bit more vibrant in the eau de toilette. The eau de toilette is a bit less performing than the eau de parfum, but I would say only about an hour or two, and I would prefer just to get the whole symphony of the eau de toilette. Not to say that the eau de parfum isn't a symphony, but the parts that I get from it are different than the eau de toilette, and I just prefer, again, that sappy part that I get stronger in the eau de toilette. And the idea for this fragrance, it's made by a perfumer named Olivia Jacobetti, is that you are under a fig tree and you're just smelling all the parts of this tree, the wood, the leaves, the fruit. And I think what makes this fragrance so special is this contrast between this lactonic, milky fig and this fresh green sap. And I always love these kinds of juxtapositions in perfumery. If you follow me, you've heard me talk about this time and time again, but I really feel like that's what gives the addictive part of a fragrance. It's what makes people want to smell you and then re-smell you. At the same time, you want to do that while still smelling somewhat familiar, because if it's too weird, then it kind of puts people off. But I think here, most people are familiar with figs, and so it's just this pleasant, likable fragrance. I feel like the fact that it's a fig leaf more prominent than the actual fig is what makes it more suitable on masculine skin. Then again, it's a super unisex fragrance, but I feel like that's kind of the part that masculine skin pulls out. And it just is such a beautiful fragrance. If you haven't smelled it, you absolutely must. Next on this list is a fragrance that I haven't really talked about on the channel, and when I have, I've been very coy about, and it's Terre d'Hermes, the original version. And the reason that I don't talk about this fragrance, even though it is of course a masterpiece, is because there was a time, even before COVID, that I just felt I smelled this everywhere. And I don't know if it's because I'm in Paris, but even in the States, I remember a lot of men would wear this fragrance. And I try to stay away with recommending you all kind of like the the men's fragrances that I smell everywhere. But now I find that Sauvage has kind of been the fragrance I smell everywhere, and is the fragrance that, while it's a nice fragrance, I smell it everywhere. I smell it everywhere on the street, and it's just not the fragrance I want to recommend to you guys, because if we're all wearing the same thing, it just gets a bit boring. And yeah, I mean, there's places for that. I've worn bestsellers. I still love bestsellers, but Terre d'Hermes, while it's still a bestseller, I just find that I'm smelling it a little bit less, and now when I'm smelling it, I'm enjoying it more. It's given me a new appreciation for this fragrance, and I want to smell more of it. It's just a true vetiver, straightforward vetiver with great longevity and projection, while still remaining this very fresh wood, this fresh, elegant wood that's still super masculine. Again, it's a bestseller for a reason. It's a very attractive fragrance. It's very manly. But again, there was just a point where I was smelling it too much, but that point has passed, and I'm really starting to love this fragrance again. And spring is all about new beginnings. So yeah, let me know how you guys feel about Terre d'Hermes. I don't think it's so polarizing. I don't know too many people that hate the fragrance, but I feel like it's either you either love it or it does nothing for you, and I'm curious what you guys think about it. Number one on this list is another Hermes fragrance, one that has a whole book about it written by Chandler Burr, called The Perfect Scent. And it really is a perfect scent. This is a masterpiece, and it's Un Jardin Sur Le Nil by Jean-Claude Ellena, by Hermes, you know, the same brain creativity that did Terre d'Hermes. And this fragrance, like Philosykos, it is a fruit paired with a lot of green notes, but also aquatic notes here. And it has that same contrast of this green mango, but also a little bit of the flesh, the lactonic part of the mango, and just some aquatic notes. So it really lives up to its name, Un Jardin Sur Le Nil. It was inspired by a trip that the perfumer took to the Nile, and just smelling these delicious ripe mangoes alongside it, with again the aquatic notes coming from the water, and just a beautiful fragrance. I would say this fragrance probably does have the lowest amount of longevity and projection than the other fragrances on this list, but Honestly, I still get 5 hours of wear from it, and I think that's enough for me. I love the versatility of this fragrance, that it is a masterpiece, that it is unique. You are not smelling mango in every other fragrance, especially a mango that can also be masculine. This is an absolutely unisex fragrance. It's marketed as a unisex fragrance. And again, these aquatic green notes definitely still keep it to be a fragrance that works great on men. So yes, it has all this going for it, and yet at the same time, we have the familiarity. We've all smelled a mango. We all know what these aquatic notes are like. So it has something very unique while still being very familiar, and it's what makes this fragrance so beautiful. It's probably my favorite mango fragrance. It's very hard to get mango right in perfumery, and he absolutely has. Let me know what your favorite men's fragrances for spring are with longevity, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everyone.